Hey, welcome to another episode of New Jersey What Exit, Politics and Punchlines and Politics. We have a great show for you here today where we have two stand-up comedians, two elected officials, and I am Joey Novick, and you are listening to www.panjradio.com. And a lot of things happened this week. We have a very, very busy week. I myself got the opportunity to go to the debate of Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. By all disclosure, I am a Bernie Sanders fan, and we are, I got to tell you, it was a very exciting place to be in New York. We actually took a water taxi from Midtown Manhattan over to the CNN. This was a CNN debate, over to the CNN studios, packed with about 3,000 people. And I have to say, over the 2-hour debate, number one, I don't think these things need to be 2 hours anymore because it was like watching a play that everyone has seen a half a dozen times. And the other thing is, it was like watching my parents argue. I was watching Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders argue for the thing. So we are here. Let's give applause for the people in our crowd. Thank you for coming. This is great. I appreciate you being here. And we will get started. First, I want to introduce, we have an interview with an old friend of mine. This is a guy who used to be the mayor of Franklin. And you you're kind of like opposite me because you were a mayor in a town that is very Democratic, and yet you are a Republican. And I just want to introduce Brian Levine.
Okay, thanks, Joe. I appreciate the invitation here.
Great. And now, Brian, you were the mayor. You're no longer the mayor of Franklin Township. You are now
Somerset County freeholder.
And that Somerset County.
Whatever a freeholder is.
Well, you know, that was one of the things that last week comedians kept on making jokes about, calling them freeloaders. And the freeholders, whenever I have them on, they've heard that joke so many times that it's exhausting. It's completely exhausting, but comedians will still make that. So tell me a little bit about what you do on the freeholder board and what your specific areas of responsibility are.
Okay, one quick digression. I was the mayor of the Franklin in Somerset County.
Oh, in Somerset. How many Franklin townships are there in New Jersey?
There's 4.
Yeah, right.
Sussex, Gloucester, Somerset, and Hunterdon.
Which I think is an outstanding choice to make it even more confusing, because I think there are like 6 Washington townships in New Jersey also, which is great, but there's only one Somerset County.
That's right.
Which is
That's
great.
right. And I always wonder, like 2 centuries ago, some people took parchment and wrote to Trenton and said, I want to name my town Franklin. And someone could have picked out a piece of paper and said, oh, we already got one of those. Name it after some other patriot.
Now, is it named after Ben Franklin?
We like to think so.
Right.
But probably, don't tell anyone.
I won't tell anyone.
It's probably named after his son, who was the royal governor and
that's
was,
right. He was
loyal to the crown.
That's interesting that we have. Is that, I'm kind of wondering if that's the same thing in all of them. Now, what are your specific jobs on the Somerset County Freeholder Board?
Okay, and the freeholders, it's like the mayor and council for a county.
Sure.
So my specific thing is human relations.
Human relations, okay, that's very important.
Yes, so I've got a finance accounting background.
That's right, you are a CPA. Oh, that's
Yeah.
why I have to ask you, today, tax day.
Yeah.
We are recording this on April 18th, so it's a tax day.
That's right, everyone can still e-file their extension if they're listening live.
Right, exactly. Up till midnight?
Yes.
Yeah,
They can.
which is great. And do you have any tax advice? If you have to give people 3 points of tax advice, what would they be?
Well, easy one is put some money away in your retirement account
Right,
because,
okay, very important.
okay, no, I'm not allowed to say this, but I'll tell you between us again.
Okay, just between us and the internet,
Okay.
what would it be?
When you're going to take your deductions, figure out what the U.S. averages are, and you'll know if you're going to get audited or not,
Okay.
for the most part. Okay. Never put anything that's not real, of course. But
I think that's very important. So basically, be truthful on your taxes.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
what was interesting is a lot of people are critical. I was reading up on, the whole tax day, and I was flipping from website to website. One of the things I think is very interesting is that the United States is one of the few countries, I mean, other democracies do this also, but when you have a country like in Russia, people don't do their own taxes. I thought that was interesting. You're actually sent a bill by the government or something, and in the United States, they actually trust people to do their own taxes, which is a freedom that we have here to do your own taxes.
That really is. I mean, forget a few tens, hundreds of thousands of auditors, but
Sure.
besides that, they trust
Right.
everyone
Right.
implicitly.
And if you don't do your taxes, the IRS will do it for you. I've discovered that a friend of mine had, and you know what? They charge a very high fee for doing the taxes for
They
you.
actually do it for you if they don't get it, and they'll put it in the worst case scenario, which
Right.
is what they're apt to do.
Which is not good.
And then you go find someone who knows what he or she is doing to undo that if you can.
And I guess that is something that you do. Now, what do you work with? Commercial? Do you just do residential taxes?
Yeah, I have my own practice. So it's resident, it's individuals, it's businesses,
Right.
it's all of them. I guess the other thing to remember is the IRS isn't stupid, so don't think that you can pull too much over on them.
I would never think of the IRS as being stupid. So, all right, we are going to. Hey, Brian, thank you very much. Oh, the one thing I forgot to ask you about is you ran for governor a few years back.
Yes,
and you
that
actually
was-
you were one of the candidates. I remember it was you, the other guy. Oh, Chris Christie was the other
Oh,
guy
yeah,
who
yeah,
ran.
yeah. Okay.
And so, why did you discuss? You ran for governor. I always wondered why you were a mayor at that time.
Yes.
What made you think? Did you think that you could get the nomination? What was your thought process during that time?
I thought it's conceivable because some people come from the back of the pack.
Sure.
I was short a couple $1,000,000. If you ever have some to
There
loan
you
to me,
go.
I might consider it again.
Again.
But it was a great experience. I got around the state. I got to speak
Sure.
to people, and I have to say, the governor, who was the candidate at the time, he was gentlemanly and
Yeah,
fine.
I remember it was you, Richard Merkt, Steve
Lonigan.
who ended up running, not dropping out himself. He ran against the governor in a primary, which was very interesting. Steve has been a good friend of mine. Steve,
Yeah.
one thing I love about Steve Lonigan, I am going back and forth with Steve trying to get him on the show, so I hope to get him on the show at some point in the future. So anyway, Brian, thank you for being here.
I appreciate
Mayor,
it.
freeholder, and
Yeah.
we're going to work our way around the table.
Thanks.
From my right, we have a great show today. We have a comedian who works regularly all over New Jersey. He also has his own radio show called the Trainwreck radio show.
The Robbinsville Trainwreck.
Robbinsville Trainwreck. I want to make sure you put in the name Robbinsville. Kurt Zimmerman.
Hey, thank you.
Appreciate you being here. A very
Pleasure.
old. Oh, I'm sorry.
Pleasure to be here, Jimmy.
Great. I appreciate that. We have a very old friend of mine, one of my dearest friends in the business, could not be here, so I invited Dennis in place. No, I'm sorry. I threw that in just because Dennis knows. Dennis Ross, whose website is actually jerseycomic.com, which is amazing to me because you have no idea how the web works. So you have an excellent website, but Dennis Ross.
I only have a good name, that's right.
And that's great. Thank you, Dennis. And also, for those of you that are listening, we did advertise that Assemblyman Reed Gashura would be with us here today. He unfortunately got caught down in Trenton doing the people's business. So he is, we're going to reschedule him. And at last minute, so this is a first, you're actually the first repeat guest that we
Wow,
have.
what a privilege,
I know,
Joe.
what a privilege.
You're going to lose tens of people.
We moved tens of people in the crowd. We have freeholder from Hunterdon County, Rob Walton, who is also with us today.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Freeholder
Filling in.
night.
Freeholder night. And I want to make sure our listeners know that a Democrat canceled replaced by a Republican, okay,
Hey-o.
which
Should
is
always be.
which as it should always be. So I appreciate that. So I want to open up here with I was talking a little bit about having gone to the Hillary Bernie debate, and I have to say that I've seen this before. I have to say it was like seeing a live performance of a TV show that I've seen over and over again. Same subjects. There was no new area here. There was absolutely nothing new. He makes a comment about attacking Wall Street. She attacks him on his vote on guns. He makes fun of the fact that she didn't turn over her speeches from Goldman Sachs. She attacks him for not revealing his tax returns. And this was 2 hours. So I think they could have encapsulated the entire thing down into about 18 minutes. A lot of fun, though. It was like for 2 hours waiting for the debate to begin. I was just schmoozing with the politicians of New York and New Jersey that I know. So that part of it was a lot of fun. But here's what it means to New Jersey. Tomorrow, if you're listening to this tonight, tomorrow is the primary day, both for Republicans and the Democrats, in the state of New York. And Hillary right now has a substantial lead. So if she wins tomorrow, and if Trump wins, I mean, Trump also has a substantial lead in New York, if they both win, What does this mean to New Jersey? Does this mean that New Jersey might actually be very close to being relevant, and then we're irrelevant again because June 7th doesn't really matter?
No, we'll be relevant, especially on the Republican side. This is going to go to the convention.
Right.
There's no two ways about it. Ted Cruz has a substantial number of delegates. Donald Trump will not get the 1237 he needs to
You
win.
think so?
I
You
think so.
actually-
I absolutely
Wow,
think so.
okay.
And when you get to the convention, the first vote will be exactly as scripted, and the second vote will be anybody's guess. And if you look at the work that Cruz has done behind the scenes, he could win that second ballot very easily.
And now, so do you think that this might actually go beyond a second ballot, though? Do you think that? See, if
sure.
Some aren't going to be released till the 3rd.
Right.
Some,
that's true.
different states have it different ways.
Right. I mean, if 1237 is what a person needs, I'm just wondering, because Donald Trump is no jerk. I mean, he is a deal maker. He is someone who.
I disagree with the first start.
No, but I think he's been. I mean, I think he's been a total jerk in this race. I mean, I can't even believe. I mean, I'm watching him in the debates. It's like, did he even prepare for this at all? But you know what? His authenticity has appealed to people.
Joe, when you say that, though, there is a storyline that he didn't really do this to win. He did this just to get in and make noise, and he was as surprised as anybody when he found himself in the lead.
Oh my God, I'm winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And now his ego's not letting him out, but, that was kind of the thing. I never thought
And there was
he never
one,
thought he'd get this far.
There was one web story that I read that I found quite unbelievable. You know, that Donald Trump has been very close to the Clintons for a long time. I mean, he was at their, the Clintons were at his wedding, and they have vacation together. And I was thinking that did the Clintons actually engineer him to run as a Republican? Because he certainly has never been a conservative by any stretch of the imagination.
That's a grand conspiracy that I'm not going to ascribe to. I certainly have heard it, but Donald Trump has been speaking at the American Conservative Union Conference for the last 5 or 6 years about immigration, about the fact that our foreign policy is not to his liking. And even if you go back, there's an interview with him on Oprah Winfrey where his foreign policy ideals were very much what he's talking about now. So he's not completely foreign to talking about politics. And yes, he was an old school Democrat. He gave lots of money to Democrats. Of course, he lived in New York. That's all you have in New York is Democrat for the most part.
Good point.
But he certainly fits the populist Republican mold much more than he does anywhere else. And populist Republicans care about immigration, about jobs, about trade. They really don't care about abortion. They really don't care about these other social issues. So he fits in very nicely with that part of the Republican Party.
So do Republicans vote for him and work for him in a general, even though he's
some do,
been
sure.
pro-choice? I mean, he's been pro-choice for many, many years. I know he says that he's pro-life now, but I really do think that, this is as an issue.
Well, wasn't that the original Tea Party thing? They were going to keep out of the social issues and just do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, it became a nonsensical thing. And Trump was attacking Japan 12 years ago, same way he's talking about China now.
Yep.
Right.
It's not a new thing.
No, I agree with all of that. I think you're largely right. I think you've made a very, very good point with regard, because I was at CPAC 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and 3 years ago, and Trump was there. I mean, he wasn't. I mean, I know he's kind of played around with the idea of running for president. But one of the things I find interesting in the parallel between, I want to hear from everybody on this, the parallel between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump is this authenticity, is this idea that these are people who have never really appealed to the mainstream of either party, and yet Bernie Sanders is appealing to bringing new voters into the picture, as is Donald Trump, bringing in new people into the picture, which sometimes is very, very scary to those people who have think they have everything figured out.
Yeah. I think that they've both shaken up the establishments in either parties.
Right.
I think that they are making a lot of more people thinking about who are we electing.
Right.
And I think that's what these guys are bringing into this election this year. They're asking more. I think voters are asking more questions.
And one of the things I find interesting is that in 2004, when Howard Dean ran for president, he brought in the meetups. He was reaching out to people on the internet for the first time in a way that no one else had done before. I remember in 1996 in the debate between Bob Dole and Bill Clinton, Bob Dole read his website over the air by having to look at a piece of paper. He goes, go to bobdole96.com. That's my website. And, we laugh at this now, but, the way Howard Dean reached out to voters in 2004 is now antiquated compared to the way Obama did it in 2008. And, I mean, you think of Bernie Sanders, who's a 74-year-old Jewish guy from Vermont, is reaching out to people in ways in social media that, again, I mean, probably in 5 years that will be antiquated, but it's just phenomenal. I mean, just the way they're reaching out to people.
I think that point of people thinking that they're authentic is a good one. I think people, just like I said, the IRS isn't stupid. The electorate isn't either. And I think that was an appeal a bit of Ronald Reagan going back.
Sure.
Not that everyone always agreed with him, but he's telling me what he really thinks, and I know where he stands. He's
Right.
not telling a different
Yeah.
group. And even though I don't agree, I like someone who can tell me where he is.
And I do think, I agree with you in that. I never agreed. I mean, obviously, I'm a left-wing Democrat, in full disclosure. I'm a Bernie. I actually have Bernie written right there on my computer. But, I mean, Ronald Reagan, you have to admit, was able to reach people in a way that was, I mean, you say it's authentic. I mean, I think he was one of the most brilliant communicators
Yes.
because he gave the fewest amount of press conferences of any president during the time he was president, almost, but he was called the great communicator. So he made excellent opportunity there.
Yeah, Reagan, what he did better than anyone as president was the Oval Office talk.
Yeah.
You know, whether sitting down at the desk or standing up at a podium, talking directly to the American people, talking over the press corps,
Sure.
going past them, and did that in a way that was enormously effective. And yes, he didn't have the number of press conferences, but he was in front of the public
I
far more
didn't
than
like
most
him, but
presidents.
at least he got stuff done, and that's the thing on both sides of this, you know. And I'd like to blame the Republicans, but it's both sides. They're now so strident about each side that they can't compromise. And here's a
Yeah.
guy coming out and saying, "I'm going to get stuff done. I'm going to work with those guys."
And that's what scares me about Trump is
Right.
this, I'm going to get stuff done. And
This
he
is
points- you know,
Rob Walton.
Yes,
Yeah.
for the record, yes. I'm opposed to President Obama's executive actions because, in my opinion, they violate the Constitution. The Constitution says you got to go to the legislature, they got to pass a law, and then the president signs it. And I know that folks will say, well, Congress does nothing, therefore the president should go ahead and do these things. But it's still extra
Didn't Bush have
constitutional.
more executive orders?
But it's not the number. Again, the numbers game is a silly game, as we talked about with President Reagan and
Sure.
press conferences. It's the content. And Bush's executive orders were, executive order to declare today National Alignment Day. I mean, that's not. Who cares? So, but my
know-
concern is that let me finish.
No, I'm
My
sorry.
concern is that with Trump, he may do things from an executive standpoint that I might like, but he's still going to be extra constitutional and do them outside
Right.
of Congress, and that scares me. I don't like
Yeah.
it when Obama does it. I don't like it when Trump
You
does
know-
it. We need to go back to our constitutional order and have Congress pass laws and the president sign them. And if they don't do that, that's not such a bad thing either.
I'm an attorney, and I consider myself somewhat of a constitutional lawyer in terms of that was what I really enjoyed. And I'm on the board of the ACLU, and so we deal with the Constitution and the First Amendment, the Bill of Rights all the time in taking cases. And I'm always very suspicious I don't understand the power of the executive order of the president that well at all. Even though I have read this in the Constitution, I don't think that the Supreme Court, at least in my memory and my understanding, has ever clearly defined what that power is.
Well, they will
for
soon.
the
They just took
president.
up the executive
Yeah,
order
exactly.
for
for the
immigration.
president, because you would think that the president can issue an executive order with regard to a law that's already in place to clarify the way a legitimate agency within the executive branch can do. For example, one of the things is I think they should have closed down Guantanamo 8 years ago, and I would think that the president would have had the authority to issue an executive order as the COC, as the commander-in-chief, to close Guantanamo.
Except for the fact that I think there's someone cleverly stuck into some law somewhere a line that said you can't close it down without the Congress saying so. And so, yes,
Right.
so in the absence of that parliamentary trick that somebody played,
Sure.
of course Obama could shut it down.
Right.
But there's the sticky thing of that law in place.
And the thing is that he ran on that in 2008 and did not do it. He's still talking about doing it, and it was sort of pushed to the back. And a lot of my left-wing friends who supported him, they sort of stopped talking about it after a while. So I guess my point is that I agree with you from a legal standpoint that while I don't like the policies that a Republican-controlled Congress does not enact, they are still the Congress. They have that right to do that.
And someday the shoe might be on the other foot.
Yeah. Oh, and Mike, that's the thing.
And that's the
power.
peril.
That's the thing. The power goes in both directions.
Balance of power.
Yeah, we might end up having a Republican president with a Democratic Congress. We had
Like
that
we did with Reagan.
With Reagan, and I think the thing that I really enjoyed about people like Reagan and Tip O'Neill and Senator Ted Kennedy and Orrin Hatch is that they tended to wish each other well. They got along, and this is something Carl Bernstein, if you remember, I think I brought this up last week.
You did?
I don't know if I got to
I was
it.
here,
Yeah,
remember.
I mean, Carl Bernstein left Washington because he said that good men stop wishing each other well. And now it's just such a battle
Yeah.
on every front.
It's too confrontational
Look at
in
when Sainer
Washington.
was here. I mean, the president flew in after Sandy.
Right.
The governor hugged him. That's what they picked on him about. How dare he?
And I love the way they looked.
Thank him for
I-
bringing billions of
I
dollars.
loved the picture of Barack Obama next to Chris Christie standing there on the tarmac. They look like the number 10 standing next to one another. That's what I thought.
Of
when
course,
they were
you
there.
know that was staged.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
I mean, from what the story I've been told, and I have no reason not to believe it, is there was a hug. And then all of a sudden someone realized, wait a minute, we didn't get a picture of this. So do it again so we don't get a picture. And they did it again. And of course, it's turned out it sank Christie's presidential aspirations as much as Bridgegate did. Some PR guy's bright idea, hey, let's take a shot of that.
Do we have to take another picture, please?
Mr. President, could you hug her? Now, could you put your hand on his back? Okay, could you now, it's like, now can we have the bride's family coming in with the whole thing, But,
I don't think individuals.
Christie party of 12.
I mean, when you know
Show more
people
leg.
that have a different, kind of political stance, you don't hate them. You might disagree with them, but now you have to act like you hate them
I know.
to get elected because some morons
And
aren't going to. And it's never in the big election. It's usually they're going to get stopped.
And I'm wondering if Hollywood has picked up on this. I mean, look at the movies that are opening: Batman versus Superman, Captain America, Civil War. The Avengers. The X-Men Apocalypse. It's all like people fighting each other that
Yes.
used to get along. What happened here to these?
I think Rodney
superheroes?
King needs to come out. Can't we all
And
just
can't
get
we
along?
just get along? I mean, I was just amazed at the animosity towards
Yes.
each other. At least Democrats and Republicans seem to have a reason not to get along. But I mean, for God's sake, the X-Men and Captain America.
Well, but spoiler alert, Batman and Superman get together at the end. And
yes,
agree,
they
so,
do. I saw a very funny meme.
And Wonder Woman's hot.
Yes,
she
undeniably.
is. She is a little hot. And Batman.
Do they hug at the end of the movie?
Yes.
No, they don't hug.
On the tarmac?
No.
No, they don't hug on the tarmac.
But they do sing Kumbaya as they go off into the bad plane.
And has everyone seen the movie here?
No.
I don't know if I don't
No,
want
I
to spoil
haven't.
it. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it for you. I've only seen it twice. I saw it once in 3D. I saw it once in 2D. The next time I'm going to see it will be in 1D because the movie. I love the genre. I completely love the genre. So I would see the movie. I would probably see it a third time because I just love the movie type, which is genre. So anyway, you were about to say something. I'm sorry, Brian. You wanted to kick in?
No, I'm okay. Thanks.
But any prediction for New York? I think that the polls show clearly that Hillary, I think, is now up by 8 or 10, and I think that the poll will be. My prediction is, unfortunately, I think that the poll will be accurate.
As a guy who studied economics back in my school days,
Sure.
I think political pundits are like economists. They can perfectly predict what happened in the past.
Yes.
And fully 50% will be right in predicting
Right.
the future also.
Right. The interesting thing about New Jersey is, did you know that the last poll here's something interesting. The last poll that was done for New Jersey has Hillary up 23 points, has Donald Trump up 27 points. But guess the date of the poll. I don't know if I sent this out to everybody.
February.
February, yeah. It was done last
Interesting.
time. It was done in February. So this was way before Bernie Sanders had any kind of surge. So I'm just wondering
Before everybody else
if,
dropped down on the Republican side,
yeah,
too.
I mean, absolutely. I'm just
But before
wondering.
we move on from New York, the interesting thing that I want to look at is the congressional district elections, because New York delegates their delegates, not just on a statewide basis, but also a district by
Right,
district
that's true.
basis. And Cruz, he knows how to run these campaigns, and I'll be very interested to see if he's targeted a handful of districts and wins those and picks up a couple of delegates, even though Trump wins the state by a wide margin.
Right.
That will be interesting to see. And then, of course, we'll have the usual temper tantrum from Trump about a rigged system and not knowing the rules. But
Yeah, and
you know.
that's the thing that we talked
I think
about.
Cruz comes
That's
in third. I
entertainment.
think
that
Cruz
is-
is going to come in third in New York.
Oh, statewide, I think you're right. But if he picks off a couple of districts, which he could,
You know what? I mean, think about it this way. It does not matter. I mean, you think about Hillary declared herself the winner in Iowa, and she ended up getting that news cycle. But, Bernie walked away with one or two fewer delegates there. He trounced her in New Hampshire.
It's Iowa. Look, Brian is a Republican here. He is a Democrat in Iowa. There's no doubt.
That is true.
Or the devil, one or the other. He's some with a D.
And this is
either
what I
one.
was mentioning before with regard to the states that Hillary has won mostly in the South, are states that the Democrats are not going to be winning in the fall election at all. I mean, this will come down to, like I read, 7 or 8, 9, somewhere between 7 or 8 states that will be very close: Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and whoever wins those states will elect the next leader of the free world. And should we, here's a question
Is
for you.
part of the reason that she's so far ahead, and I don't know if this is true or not, that she already had locked up all these superdelegates before?
Yes,
then? Now, if she didn't have them and they were up for grabs, would we
She
be
locked
talking
up the
different
superdelegates.
numbers?
She also locked up. Well, look, they are the Clintons. They have been in politics for more than 30 years, and all of the people who are the superdelegates in many of these states are people who know her for a very long time. So I just got the 1-minute signal, so I just want to just talk a little bit about our next topic that we'll throw in. We are going to be right back. I am Joey Novick. You are listening to New Jersey What Exit, Politics and Punchlines, and we'll be right back right after a word from our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Vinny Veterosa, and I approve this message.
Vinny is such a pussycat. And incidentally, if you've never had a massage by Vinny Veterosa, you
like
must
this.
do it. You will be grateful to me for having suggested it, for him for having done it, and for yourself for having the wisdom to accept the advice.
Have Table Will Travel with Vinny Verderosa.
He's got magic thumbs. The man has magic thumbs. He really does.
He really does.
Right now, 3 one-hour sessions for the price of 2, which include general massage, reflexology, and acupressure. Check me out. See for yourself why people feel so good when their session is done. On Facebook, Acupressure Have Table Will Travel. On the web, relaxintoreiki.com/partners. My telephone number is 732-259-3129. And you can get me here anytime on PANJradio.com.
PANJ Radio serves Mercer, Bucks, and Hunterdon counties and the world, and we want to serve your business on our airways. Commercial rates start at just $50 for a 30-second spot on your favorite PANJ show. We run your ad not just once, but up to 7 times in a 1-week period. That's a lot of bang for your buck online. We will track the number of listeners your commercial gets, so you can measure how many new customers you get from airing it with us. For more information, please contact Rob at panjradio.com or call 609-460-4550. We can't wait to bring your company new local business on PANJ Radio.
Are you having fun running your business marketing? Or does online marketing and social media overwhelm you? Would you like to use Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Snapchat, or LinkedIn, to name just a few online social marketing opportunities to market your business successfully? Amplify Your Voice can help. We work exclusively with local businesses in the PANJ radio target area of Hunterdon, Mercer, and Bucks counties, offering social media workshops, one-on-one coaching, managed services, direct online marketing, and web design. Contact us today at 973-615-5287 or email us at radio@ampyourvoice.com for a free no-obligation review of your online marketing. You can also visit us at www.ampyourvoice.com. Amplify your voice in a crowded market. Together, we will put the fun back in your business marketing.
And we are back. I love that music.
Very
I love the-
official, very official.
So we are back. I am Joey Novick. We are back, and you are listening to New Jersey What Exit? Politics and punchlines, or punchlines and politics. Haven't figured out which one should go first yet. I kind of like that a little bit. I'm not sure which one to go. P&P. Well, I've been on in years past. I was on the TV show Power and Politics. So I was thinking one morning, punchlines and politics is what we do. So we're here with the
Straight
former.
man always gets the first billing. Joe.
Yeah, there you go. We are here with the former mayor of Franklin Township, now a freeholder. Are you the freeholder director? Is that your freeholder?
No, I'm just a peon
I'm just
a regular freeholder.
I'm just a regular freeloader. I'm one of the guys. And we have Brian Levine, who's a freeholder in Somerset County. We have a freeholder from Hunter County, my own representative, Rob Walton, who is doing a great job out there. We have comedian, Jersey comic, Dennis Ross.
Hello.
And we have from Robbinsville Trainwreck Radio Show, comedian Kurt Zimmerman.
Hello there.
So everyone's still here. So we're back. Hey, that was a good, vibrant half an hour talking about the presidential race. I want to get a little bit more specific with an issue that I found interesting reading on the web about the way they do polling. So let's all travel back to 1948. If you remember the big headline.
Way back in 1948.
Right, 1948, Truman defeats, what was it?
Dewey
defeats Truman, yeah.
And the reason why is because the pollsters, which was brand new back then, just had bad information. Because who were they polling? They were polling people with phones. And you know, a lot of the people, the farmers, the laborers, the plumbers,
The hill people.
The hill people did not have phones. So, of course, who were they asking? They were asking all people who were supporting Tom Dewey, and it turns out that Truman wins. Now, it was an interesting thing with regard to going out who is actually being polled here. Most millennials who are supporting Bernie Sanders have cell phones.
Yes.
Now, the question was, when they do this polling, are they calling home phones? Predominantly, that's who they're
Well, they're
calling.
probably calling landlines because that's what the automatic dialers
That's
can
what they
hit.
have.
Yeah.
They don't have cell phones. Cell phones are not listed. So when they go ahead and they call, and there was one person I called about this who is a Patrick
Murray?
Patrick Murray, and he
Monmouth.
said that's from the Monmouth polling. He said that's very interesting because what they do is they actually do have some. Thank you, Stu. They do have some cell phones that they can call because people are self-identified. But when people are self-identified and want to be in polls, that's also not the best way to go about doing that. So I'm just wondering, are Hillary's supporters overly represented in these polls, and they're not as well represented with Bernie supporters?
One way it's been changing since the past, back in the olden days when I was young,
Right.
virtually everyone would be listed in the phone book, and
Sure.
you could look them up. Now you're opting in to be
Exactly.
listed. So it's a shift. And I think who's ever going to grasp that market of appealing to those people, that's the polling end.
Right.
But if getting to communicate with them is going to be in good shape.
It really is a challenge to find out. So I was just thinking, are millennials who are supporting Bernie not as well represented in some of these polls? And Patrick Murray was very upset about the question, way back when he said, no, we have methods. They do this online. They do sampling. They make phone calls. So I said, okay, it was, and I said, Patrick, it was just a question. I asked you a question about what you thought about it. You don't have to jump down my throat. No, but all kidding aside, I was just kind of wondering about that. So, all right, we can move on to a next topic. I was hoping to have Reed Gouchard on. He had to cancel last minute. Probably going to have him on in the future. The takeover of Atlantic City has become really volatile, and I'm just wondering if we have any opinions about this, because I've certainly played Atlantic City, and we want Atlantic City to be successful, but boy, it's in very tough straits.
It's gone downhill. I mean, ever since Pennsylvania and New York all brought in gambling, the place just emptied out. I think what the city needs to do is find other revenue sources. They really need to find something that would attract people down there. Is that making it a family resort again?
Gambling. I would put up a casino. That seems to be working in other places.
Well, this is
The people that didn't want gambling will soon get their wish.
Yeah.
This is just classic government at its worst. Atlantic City was given this government mandated monopoly on gambling, and then all of a sudden you could do it outside of New Jersey, but very close by, and the underlying premise that made Atlantic City successful went away, and lo and behold, the city begins to fail. Shocking.
Yeah.
I'm amazed.
And
You look at
Well, the
Atlantic City's
joke
budget.
always was, with $3 billion worth of casinos and 98 cents spent on the town.
Right.
When
Yep.
you
Well,
went
that's
in,
the
and
problem.
nobody wants to go through the hood to go gamble.
You're right, because after, Rob's right, classic government running things, after 30 years, no one there started figuring out, you know what, we're not the only ones east of Las Vegas who can do gambling anymore.
Right.
It's not, you wouldn't want a family member to be walking 2 blocks off the boardwalk.
Hey.
It's beautiful
I
there.
thought the ocean would be enough.
Yeah,
I don't want to say anything. There are some family members of my family I would love to have walk 2 blocks beyond. My cousin Marvin would be the perfect guy to. No, I'm just kidding.
What's equally fascinating about this Atlantic City debacle is the gubernatorial race politics behind it. You've got Steve Sweeney in South Jersey fighting for
Right.
his bill. You've got Vince Prieto fighting for his bill up north. You've got Steve Fulop, who's trying to pull Prieto's strings as the
Right.
puppeteer. And then you got Governor Christie, who's still trying to demonstrate that he's the big guy in the room, figuratively speaking, of course. Sorry, it is
hey!
So that's much more fascinating to watch, frankly, than what's going to happen to Atlantic City. Atlantic City's done.
And
Singapore
the thing
but
is-
this is all about Jersey politics at its
Sure.
best.
Yeah.
And the thing that's sad about this is I would imagine the Republicans in the legislature are sitting back watching this.
Well, that's fascinating to watch. I mean, our own Assemblyman Peterson voted against the governor's wishes and voted
Right.
for a bill that I think Chris Brown was supporting. Chris Brown is a legislator from Atlantic City way, and went against the governor. So we're seeing the governor lose his mojo when it comes to corralling Republican votes. They
Right.
say, you're not relevant anymore,
Yeah.
Mr. Governor. We're on to the next thing.
Yeah. It's got to be tough for somebody like Chris Christie, who was the heir apparent in 2012, could have had the nomination had he wanted it because people were courting him. And then it shows you how quickly politics changes, which is just, 4 years later, what am I saying, 4 years later, 2.5 years later, he is, and this has nothing to do with Bridgegate. Maybe Bridgegate is part of this, but I really do think that if Bridgegate never happened, whatsoever, I still think he would have had a tough time.
Yeah, you had a perfect storm against Governor Christie.
Yeah.
You had
Yep.
the Obama hug. You had Bridgegate. Then you had somebody who was more brash and more outspoken than him run for president at the
Who
same
would
time.
ever
Another
have-
Northeast liberal Republican
Right.
running for the presidency.
I mean-
and,
The password is redundant.
Who would ever have thought that he's sitting in his hotel room going, he's stealing my bits. I'm the one who yells at people. I'm the one who calls people stupid.
And you look at those early, the New Hampshire election, and all the money spent attacking each other. Christie attacking Rubio,
Oh,
Rubio
my God.
attacking Christie, Bush attacking everybody, and they're all left Trump alone.
Yeah.
And now he's the last one standing other than Cruz, and
Right.
it's just, it's a
But
circular firing squad, and
he
it's
could
really
have
worked.
bought for $100 million all the publicity he got.
Right.
Because every time he said something outrageous, they put him on the news 500 times. Every news channel.
I know.
had him. He had more free publicity than anybody ever.
Trump said, I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
No, I was going to say,
No, go ahead.
he's had a 40-year run,
Yep.
knowing how to work the media and everything. Not that that's good or bad, but it's knowledge.
It was good.
And everyone else is.
It's his skill.
New.
It's his skill. I mean, Trump would make fun of. Remember, he made fun of the guy who was developmentally disabled.
Right.
It does
He
sickening.
makes fun. He calls or allegedly calls Mexicans rapists and murderers.
Stuff
and,
that should have hurt him. Made
Right.
him bigger.
McCain's not a war hero.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
McCain's
that
not
was
a
a
war hero.
huge one.
So what happens is any other candidate, if Hillary would have said something like this or Ted Cruz, that would have been the end of his campaign. But for Trump, it's like just another Tuesday. It's
Yeah.
like another news cycle.
Punch these people in the face. I'm going to back you on it.
Well, it's like the bully mentality. I
Right.
think that he's just, I'm the big dog, I'm the alpha male. He's, and that's what people are appealing to.
And of course, that was Christie long before Trump decided to
right,
run for
but
president.
Trump does it better, and Trump does it better, and he has a better comb over.
That's one of the reasons why I'm sorry that Reed is not here, because there was one of the articles that I did about 3 years ago for whatexitnj.com, which was that that the Christie administration had sent out a press release indicating that he was on his 100th insult. Okay, he gave out his 100th insult. So I sent this out, and I was getting, I put this in there, and I'm getting emails back from people who read it like second and third hand, going, "I can't believe they're celebrating that. That is just awful. I can't believe they're actually doing that." Because Reed was one of the people that he insulted, calling him numbnuts or something. So when I put this out there, see, that's the great thing about the Onion and about whatexitnj.com is if it has 1% of believability.
Yes.
people actually will think, well,
And
maybe
you don't know
that's
what to
true.
believe with this
The
guy.
Onion,
Yeah.
whatexit.com. Somebody has ideas of grandeur in here.
No,
But you don't know what to believe with
No,
this.
it's
because
whatexitnj.com is my website.
I know.
Yeah.
That is the parent. And I've done stories. One of the stories that I did when oh God, who is the congressperson before? My mind is the football player Phil.
McCracken? Oh,
No, Phil McCracken. I'm just,
no.
we were
The guy
up
from the-
here.
the guy from the Eagles.
We were.
But yes,
we were up here for such a long time.
I
and
know,
high
and I just
level,
told- I
and
just-
you just, and
I just torpedoed it. Thank you.
You should know that. The guy from the Eagles.
Dick Hertz, that guy, that's the one you want. That's the man you want.
The
But you
tackle
had
from
him
the
right up
Eagles.
here. Phil, I cannot remember the Congressman Phil. You know what I'm talking about. So he, for a while, was on some science committee, and when NASA, he was on a science
wait a
committee.
minute.
Yes.
Believe it or
A
not.
football player was on a science committee?
Hey,
this
He was the U.S.
Republicans.
Congress. What do you
He
want?
was the U.S. Congress.
Wait a minute.
Right.
I can't wrap my head around that.
So I did a story when NASA when they stopped the space program. I did a story that he was quoted as saying that he wanted to pay tribute to all the great staff and management of NASA who so successfully faked the moon landing in 1969. And I want to pay tribute to the great actor Neil Armstrong for being on the moon. And he said that if I have anything to say about it, we're going to keep those sets where they were on the moon, spray paint them red so we can use them when we
to
fake a
Mars.
Mars landing.
Capricorn
Anyway,
one.
Fiscal conservative, good.
Right. So what ended up happening is the Burlington newspaper, was the Burlington Free Press, is that
Burlington County Times?
Burlington County Times picked up the story and put it in a small section, and he wrote back and saying, no, we're going to sue this guy. This is defamation. We never said this. I got a message from his office. Where did you get this information?
John Runyon, there was the name.
John Runyon, that was
There
it,
you go.
not
Now I
Phil.
get
John
You
Runyon.
said Burlington County. I put
Right.
two and two
So
together.
I was laughing because I wish I would have kept this message because where did you get this information? We never gave you an interview. We were very upset about this. Please give us a call. And I was thinking nothing could be more. Nothing could be better for me than having some congressman be ticked off about a story.
A former
So-
football player with concussions who is
Right,
now a
well-
legislator.
Well, he was, so he was there, I guess, 4 or 6 years. So let me bring, it's tax day. I know Brian is an accountant. I couldn't bring, I could not,
Yay,
I could not
day.
miss this story. This is something which is states with the highest income tax. There was a story about that. New Jersey is number 3 behind New York and Connecticut.
We're not trying hard enough.
We're not trying. We're going to see what we can do. We're going to see what we can do. But I mean, there are states. One of the things is New Jersey has a very high income tax, but then again, New Jersey also has some, a great place to bring your kids from other states to go to school here. A lot of people move here from New York to go to our schools. We have high property taxes. We have high income taxes. We are taxed like crazy. I mean, you're an accountant, so you could probably comment on this. But how do we? What do we do? I ask my 2 Republican conservative friends. What do we do to ease the tax burden?
We are a high tax state here, obviously. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, California, high
It's on
ones.
the list.
And
Massachusetts also is on the list.
I think what a lot of the states don't realize is you're not the only game in town. If you're Hawaii or maybe the middle of Texas and you don't like the tax situation, it's hard to go somewhere.
Right.
New Jersey is stone's throw from New York, Pennsylvania,
Sure.
Delaware,
People move to
Maryland, even
Pennsylvania.
North Carolina. And those states are smart enough to woo the people, the companies. So when you raise it, the taxes, again, it's not as zero-sum game. They
Nope.
can get up and go. Unlike the federal income tax where, okay, you're stuck with it unless you take up residence overseas.
Unless you can be like a very wealthy millionaire and you can move elsewhere.
And other states-
North Carolina's got its own problems. I don't
That
know
is
if you
true.
want to put that
That
on
is
that
true.
list.
But you have to look at how you're buying things, how you're doing it, I mean, from the state's perspective, and how everyone else is doing it, too. It's like a municipality or your household. It's kind of a simple formula.
Right.
For the most part. I want to bring in $1 more than I send out.
That's
Part of
not
New Jersey, from where I sit, the biggest problem with Jersey is the way we fund our schools.
Okay.
Half of the money that we collect to fund schools goes to about 10 different schools in the state. That's ridiculous.
Abbott districts?
Abbott districts,
Right,
yes.
yes.
And in Hunterdon County, for every dollar we send to the state for education, we get 6 cents back. Now, I'm all for a progressive tax system to a certain degree. I understand you got to help out the Newarks of the world and the Camdens of the world, but for crying out loud, that's ridiculous. These guys are not contributing to their own education in their own cities. You can look at Jersey City, which is now this palatial urban mecca, and they don't pay for their schools. We do. It's outrageous.
Jack-
And this is and if Christie's biggest failure was failing to fix the Supreme Court, which has held hostage the school funding formula for 30 years,
Yep.
it is outrageous. It is, it is, of all the things we need to fix in Jersey, that's the first one. A lot of things get fixed.
See
after
now,
that.
here's where I wear my Democratic hat and I wear my liberal hat on this thing. Jack Ciattarelli had a plan, which you probably have seen.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Dougherty has his fair funding school plan, where every student gets the same amount of money.
Correct.
In the state. And the problem with Jack's plan, and I've spoken with him about this, is that there are parts of it that are clearly, again, in my legal opinion, really are challenged with constitutionality. I mean, I will try to have Jack on. I actually would love to have Jack on to talk about the plan. And with Michael Dougherty's plan, there are different parts of the state that do have different expenses. I mean, schools in Hunterdon County. I mean, one of the reasons why we have great schools in Hunterdon County, it happens to be a very wealthy area. We have a very wealthy area. And I know you can make the same claim about Jersey City, but not all of Jersey City is the palatial parts that you are making reference to on the Hudson River.
Our funding formula is intractable. It doesn't change.
Yep.
Even as Hoboken and Jersey City have risen to become these wealthy urban centers, the formula's not changed.
Right.
And because the Supreme Court has locked it in. As again, I'm all for helping the Newarks and Camdens. I get it. But the
money needs to go back to the home, back to your home districts. I mean, I work for a school district down in Mercer County, and it's the same thing. The biggest problem that I have with the funding, not only with the Abbotts, is that we are publicly funding the charter schools that are in our town. I'm sorry, if you want to send your kid to a charter school, there should be more. I feel that it should be more of the burden on the parent. Why are we publicly funding an alternative that the kids can go to?
Well, the reason behind that is because the alternative, or what I should say, the public school is not working in a lot of circumstances. So, you look at Newark, the Street Academy,
and it's
like
really
that.
and it's really
They're great
funny about
alternatives.
charter schools. Charter schools generally do not have any better record than public
No,
schools.
they don't.
They also do not necessarily have to take every student. So if a student has a learning disability, a charter school does not have to take that student at all. Those students are going to be eminently more expensive to educate rather than a regular
I understand,
student.
because you guys know more on this than me. I understand that Newark has to get some more money because of certain things, but they get a large amount more money, don't they,
Yep.
for some of these schools?
Oh, they get
Why? Just what did I mean, I get maybe you need more security and,
Ask the
there's a
Supreme
mandate,
Court of the
there's a
state of New
mandate to educate everybody, and so if you have more students that aren't as good, you have to try to educate them.
Our
and that's got to
Constitution-
slow things up.
the state
But still,
Constitution
why
has
would it
this
cost that much more?
It has this ridiculous clause in there that's sort of undefinable: thorough and efficient education.
Education, right.
And
we've
the
been
Supreme
debating
Court-
this for 40 years.
And the Supreme Court developed a criteria for it and said, because of this criteria, you have to give these 10 school districts or so a certain level of funding that's got to be maintained year in, year out. And whatever's left over goes to everybody else. Well, that just...
I bet district.
I think
but the state-
Again,
didn't the
we
state
were up
take
here
over
for a while.
Didn't the
I'm
state
sorry,
take
I
over
have
the
to bring
schools
it
in Newark
back
for a
in.
while.
Excuse me?
Didn't the state come in and take over some of the schools?
Yeah,
Yes.
what happened?
Was it better?
Yeah, what happened
No.
in the city of Newark is many years ago, the state of New Jersey came in and took over the schools. Okay, they just took over the schools, and what ended up happening there is the state has not done any better job than Newark was doing themselves. And look, I don't know what the answer is. I am a very strong supporter of public schools because I really do believe that public schools are the primordial soup of education. And as far as this is where this is the backbone of America, is the fact that we have an outstanding education system. And in spite of what we consider to be some failing schools in New Jersey, overall New Jersey has outstanding schools. I mean, we do very well on national tests, and people from New York, after their kids start getting older, they buy their homes in New Jersey. Why? Because we have better schools than New York. So overall, we have some very, very good schools.
You could
here.
probably free up billions of dollars in the system because of New Jersey's home rule. Now, Flemington, Lambertville, Franklin, Somerville, Highland Park, Atlantic City, all have a superintendent who makes $200,000, and an assistant who makes $150,000, and a director of math, and a director of English, and a social studies director. And all these people are repeated. In other states, it's more consolidated, and they're not illiterate. That would free up billions of dollars. I remember once I had a very public argument with a member of our Board of Education years ago when I was mayor, who said, the goal is to have a very strong public school system. And I said, no, I think your view is all wrong. The goal is to educate children.
Right.
If that's through a good public school system and you can do it, fine. If that's through whatever else, that's what I'm for.
Yeah, we did a study a few years ago to look at schools, how much it costs to educate students in Hunterdon County. We spend $400 million in Hunterdon County on all of our schools. You look at counties that are our same size, both student population, all that good stuff. You adjust it for cost of living, and we spend on average $100 million more than the 8 other counties across this country that are our same.
Wow.
Our same size. And their similarity, they have 1 district. We've got 26. $100 million on average. And these are blue ribbon schools. These are, high-performing academic schools. This isn't some, jerkwater school in Mississippi. This is, Maryland, it's Florida, it's Georgia. These are, suburban school districts that do a very good job of educating their kids, and they do it for $100 million less on average.
I have to say that that just definitely boggles my mind. I mean, there's definitely a different issue between the way that we fund the schools and the best ways that we can save money. I mean, saving money is just the same basic fiscal principles that households and all states should. And I don't think that is something that Republicans...
This is the kind of thing where there's a charity and all the money goes to administration and the actual people in need get 7 cents on the dollar or something.
You know from sitting as a mayor, you've sat as a mayor, I've sat as a guy who wanted to be the mayor. Seriously, no. I mean, when we sat and the school budget failed, we have to sit there with the school board and negotiate these cuts. Well, I can tell you,
is it a political plum that they're allowed to give this out? Is that why nobody wants to get rid of it? Really?
No, because each individual school has its own school board, and they don't want to relinquish control to somebody else, and that's what it's all about. And they have their fiefdoms, these school boards, to a certain degree, and they hold on to them for dear life. Because they're here, it's for the kids. And that's the other thing, with elected officials, with politicians like me, Joey, and Brian, it's for the taxpayer.
Yep. Right.
But if you're a board member, it's for the kids. What higher calling is there than that?
I know.
For the kids.
I wield my fiefdom with a number 2 pencil and a ruler.
One of the things that I'm absolutely fascinated by, in regard to the funding of schools, is this idea of the principal, the superintendent, and we have so much government in New Jersey. I mean, we have 565 municipalities. I used to do a joke in my, when I would appear with John Bramnick, I would do a joke in my act about, when the Princetons merged, I would say, oh my God, what is happening here? We have 1 fewer town. Next year there'll be 2 fewer towns. The next year have 4 fewer towns.
Wishful thinking.
In 10 years, we'll have no towns in New Jersey whatsoever. What are we going to possibly do? But, we do have a lot of government here. We have a lot of government. And you said, but you know what? People like home rule. I will tell you, people like home rule, and I will predict that I don't think you're going to see many mergers in the next 5 years unless there's some incredible financial incentive.
I like to say that towns are like Congress. Everybody hates Congress,
right?
But they love their congressman.
They love their congressman.
Yes. Everybody says we have too many towns,
right?
But my town's fine.
But Hampton,
both can't be true.
What is Hampton nearby?
Glen Gardner,
and
Bethlehem Township, Lebanon Township.
Okay, so let's say, could they merge with Bethlehem Township?
I was on the cusp of getting 5 towns, including Hampton, to do a study on merging.
Right, and what happened?
It fell apart.
Yeah,
the folks didn't want to do it.
Everyone, no.
Forget merging the towns. If you said we're going to have supervisors of the counties run the schools and save $200 million, I bet you'd get a lot of people going, that's a great idea.
I'm not merging with Hampton. It annoys me. No, I'm not going there. No, I don't want to, I don't want the mashed potatoes near the peas.
Hell no, we won't merge.
Yeah, well,
Hell no, we won't grow.
So Hampton is in the middle of all these towns. Flemington, my hometown of Flemington, is in the center of Raritan Township, and last year the Raritan Township Committee put on their ballot, without telling anybody from Flemington that they were going to be doing this, that they wanted to talk to Flemington about merging. But that was it. He goes, "Don't tell anybody." And
Flemington doesn't know.
Right, when I found this out, I called up. Then was the mayor, Craig O'Brien. You know Craig.
Yes.
And I said, "Mayor, why did you do this without letting Flemington know?" "Well, it's our authority. We can do it on our own." I said, "No one's saying that you shouldn't do it, but how much better it would have been if both Flemington and Raritan had on their two separate ballots merger possibilities." Now, so I actually think that my own opinion, now that I'm out of office, is that they wanted it to fail. They wanted to get it off the agenda, which is why they did it in such a kind of a sneaky way, and which is kind of sad, because I would like to have seen a legitimate vote on both sides, because I brought in the woman from Gina Genovese from the group Courage to Connect.
Yep, good
and
friend.
So she was there in front of the group, and we invited the people there who were dead set against merger. And I said, throw your questions at her. And she handled everyone like she was Derek Jeter with at a in a shortstop. So I thought that was great.
What was the name of that town going to be? Like Rare Phlegm, or what were they going to call it?
Novik, New Jersey.
Novik, New Jersey.
That was the reason people against it. I said, could you, Novikville. That was the thing I went. No, I would think, the name probably would have remained Flemington, just because.
Rare Phlegm.
I'm sure the Raritan people would have been happy. Would the Raritan people been happy about it being all called Flemington?
Rare Phlegm.
Could have been Flemington Township, but I think that since everyone knows the area as Flemington, I mean, 2/3 of the people who live in Raritan think they live in Flemington anyway, because that's the
It's the more famous town.
because that is the
more history.
That is basically the that is the post office. That is where people get their mail. So let me throw one last question here, and this is one of those things that only happened in New Jersey. There was a man arrested in Walmart allegedly, and I love this when it goes in the newspaper, allegedly for masturbating in a Walmart. And I'm thinking,
I think it makes sense, because you said it's in the aisles, and that's always where
there
the
you go.
specials are.
Okay.
It would have been really creepy if he finished in the adult diaper aisle.
There you go.
The specials are always in the aisle.
The word that got me was allegedly.
Well, it's always allegedly.
Well, yeah, it's always allegedly, because he hasn't been.
You're not a real good lawyer.
Wait a minute, Joey. Did this happen in Mays Landing? I thought this was a Salem or a Bridgeton kind of thing.
There you go. Okay, but it was a man from Mays Landing who went to a Walmart.
There you go.
So we are almost.
They have variety at Walmart.
We're almost finishing up here. We
got
got about another couple of minutes. I just want to go around and find out what you guys are doing. Anything that you want to plug? Where you're going to be in the next couple of weeks?
Well, as I said, I have my Robbinsville train wreck. I have a Facebook page with that. So anybody out there wants to listen and learn about my show, it's the Robbinsville train wreck. Also, on my radio show, we are doing a little thing. I am actually running for president in 8 states.
Oh, you mentioned this, yes.
Yes, in 8 states, you could run as a write-in candidate in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, Mississippi, Iowa, and Oregon. People could write me in. I am actually running for president using the social media and my radio shows. All I want is 10 voters in every of these states. I just want 80 votes. So my motto is the power of 10. And the reason for this is if you like a candidate, Joey likes Bernie, I'm sure you guys are going to back your Republican candidate, but I appeal to the voter out there who does not know who they want to vote for. And if you're not comfortable with any of the candidates, I insist that you vote for a 51-year-old fat comedian from Trenton, New Jersey.
There you go.
Who you would want to be a commander-in-chief. So that's what it is. The power of 10. Robbinsville Train Wreck. Find me on Facebook.
There you go. Dennis, where are you going to be?
I will be at the Mohican Manor, not the casino, right outside of Syracuse, doing comedy all weekend in conjunction with the Miss Syracuse contest.
Oh, my God. So you might pick up some extra babes there, I think. And, Rob, anything that we're working on for and I will see you tomorrow night, because I'm actually coming in tomorrow night.
A gadfly sent out a letter encouraging people to come to my freeholder meeting to protest the moving of the
not
Jazz
a gadfly,
Fest.
it was me. It was me. I'm very open about it. The freeholders, and of course, Brian, what are you working on in Somerset County?
Well,
Anything exciting?
Because I'm too old to know how to change it. My Facebook page is Mayor Brian Levine. I somehow figured I do Brian Levine.
Maybe another town will be formed.
And also, I do have started a political blog for a few months, only haven't written anything yet. So, it's a little light on content.
Hey,
Visible
and you
ink.
know what? That should be a popular blog, a politician who doesn't have anything to say. I think they should absolutely.
The state's
Hey,
done.
I want to
Nothing
thank
else
you,
to write.
everyone, for being on today. Rob Walton, Brian Levine, Dennis Ross, and Kurt Zimmerman. I will see you all guys on the radio next week on New Jersey What Exit, Politics, and Punchlines. Thank you. This is
Hey,
Joe
thanks
Murphy.
a lot. This is
Thank
terrific.
you for having me.
Thanks, everybody.